Good afternoon. Hope everybody had a good lunch. As Michael said, I'm Doris Hager. I'm president of Hager Design International. We're a design firm based in Vancouver. We specialize in hospitality. We're probably the largest 100% or pure hospitality design firm in Vancouver. We work all across North America on branded and unbranded hotels. We have, I don't know if we're showing images or not. Basically, we're working on the second Virgin Hotel in North America. We are the designers of record. That's going to open up next month in San Francisco. We worked on the Bicycle Casino Hotel, or this is the Hotel Saskatchewan. It's an autograph hotel. It's a historic renovation. Bicycle Casino Hotel is a very modern hotel. When it opened, it increased casino traffic by about 30% and does about 85%. This is the Virgin Hotel due to open next month. So hopefully that shows that we have a diverse amount of projects. We design to the market and client expectations, and our panel has diverse projects as well, and as Michael mentioned, a very talented panel. So I'm going to introduce Kat, and Kat's going to talk a little bit about her role with Trump Hotels and
Great.
things she's been working on.
Great. So I've been with Trump Hotels about 3 years now. I was brought to the organization to launch new brands. We came to market first with a 4-star lifestyle brand called Scion, which its intention is really to answer the needs, and I think I'm probably jumping ahead in questions. There are, our flagship Trump brand is a 5-star luxury product, can only go in so many markets. So when you look at growth of a portfolio, you look at what is, your next alternative, and launching a brand that would resonate with a larger constituency would be more appropriate for a broader market. Or diverse markets is what Scion is. And then most recently, I guess almost a year now, we came to market with a franchisable product called American Idea. So that's a select and limited service product that is looking to provide our owners and franchisees with opportunity to be a little more boutique in their interpretation of our brand, and perhaps an alternative to some of the what we'll call big box, more static brands.
Thank you, Kat. Next is Himank. You've all met him earlier today. And can you tell us
I'm associated with the Emaar Hospitality Group, a Dubai-based hospitality group, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Emaar Properties, a global property developer. And I've been with the group for now a year and a half. And we have 3 brands, starting with the luxury we have Address, upscale lifestyle we have Vida, and contemporary mid-scale we have Grow. So we have 13 hotels in total, operational so far, all in UAE. And another 40 hotels are in the pipeline across Middle East, Africa, and Asia. So it's quite an upcoming hotel company, and we're really growing aggressively. Our aim is to get to, from today 13, get to 150 by the year 2022. So that's really, what we've been working on of late.
Thank you very much. Brad Weiser is with Hostmark, as Michael was mentioning, has the Perry Hotel, which is a very acclaimed hotel that's open. Well, last year, right? Last year.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about these ones.
Thank you, So I am a second-generation hotelier, a lifer in the hospitality business, part of Postmark Hospitality based out of Chicago, about a 53-year-old company. We, owners, operators, and developers of hotels around the country. We probably opened about 16 months ago the Perry Hotel here in Key West, and have some other properties that hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about that we're working on it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And last we have Sophie Wilkinson with Common, co-living with Common is the name of the company. Can you tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, sure, thank you. My name is Sophie Wilkinson. I'm the head of design and construction at Common. Comet is not a hotel. We're actually a branded residential company, and we specialise in co-living. Many of you may be familiar with co-working. Co-living is leveraging, sharing with roommates to get better value in your living experience. 78 million Americans roommate currently, and we're a brand who services those people. We have very strong demand, and we manage our properties partnering with owners who own them, and we deliver convenience and community to the people that we call members living with us, and we offer premier returns to our owners as well. It's a really exciting new space to be in, and we're really targeting the needs of those members who are roommating, looking for a social experience and a know your neighbour effect.
Thank you. And there's some images from when everybody was speaking about the product. So anytime anybody has some questions, please ask them, or you can keep them at the end, but anytime you have anything, please feel free to jump in. So I'll start with Kathleen with the first question. So it takes years of research to come up with a new brand. How do you forecast into the future what will be relevant years ahead?
So aside from the crystal ball that of course we all have, what we've done with the Scion brand in particular is really look to design a product, a physical product that can be responsive, because the world changes so rapidly right now. So rather than attempt to predict what our consumers will be looking for, what we look to do in the space is design a space that can flex, and so that programming can be responsive. We've looked to leverage various technology solutions, but nothing so firm within the infrastructure that we can't then again be responsive to as the world moves forward and how people are using technology. We like to use it to enhance the hospitality experience in this brand in particular, and not replace humans. And I think that that's what we do, because we don't think that the business of anticipating the future is the right place to be. We'd rather, in the Scion brand, be responsive to it.
Okay, thank you. Himank, you've worked with many different brands, and we've heard a little bit about your philosophy and the things. We also learned about emotional personalization earlier today. How do you basically not just market yourself differently, but how does a hotel deal with that value propositioning that you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, so as I mentioned in my talk, one of the major issues that hospitality has been going through is the issue of commoditization, where you have brands after brands having the same kind of value propositions, and it's difficult to distinguish one brand from the other at times. And also what happens is that whenever a new brand comes up with a new philosophy, there are other brands which kind of jump into the foray and try and copy that. So in no time, a concept which is launched like a couple of years ago is no longer unique. So I think it boils down to every brand or every hotel to think about its unique selling proposition, right? Why should I stay at your hotel and not the competitor? So that's where it boils down to. And this value proposition can be design-led, it can be service-led, it can be experience-led, but there has to be something which kind of distinguishes your brand from the rest. So Row, for example, is our contemporary mid-scale brand. And it's in terms of its value proposition, it's extremely design-led, and it's not really targeted towards millennials. The way we brand this as is that it's for people who are young at heart. Yeah, so we're not necessarily saying that, look, we're only millennial focused. It's somebody who's young at heart. So we've got a lot of quirky spaces in the entire hotel, whether it's a self-accessible luggage space where you don't mind going yourself and putting your own bag because it's so design-oriented, colorful, and things like we have a shipping container. Within that shipping container, we have like a PlayStation and workstations, etc., where kids can play and hang around. Then we've got meeting rooms where we have a ping pong net on that, so you could play during the breaks, during the meeting breaks. So these are the things which when we launched the brand like 3-4 years ago were quite new, and Rove has been making a lot of new, especially in the Middle East. And now we are, trying to grow aggressively in other parts of Middle East and hopefully Africa soon.
Very aggressive, very good. Brad, so you've developed this Architectural Digest recognized Best Design Hotel of 2017, the Perry. What was the driver to make this such a renowned hotel?
It's a great question. I think the first and foremost, as a developer, this is one of the best hotel markets in the country. So Key West, has been consistently one of the strongest markets in the country. So that certainly helps coming in. But we really, had a great design team, a unique location, and have, with all of the details, we tried to do something a little bit different than what you see typically in Key West, and I think that's really resonated with our guests. So from a great PR campaign as well as some great marketing, but then ultimately I think what the guests are saying about their stay at the property at the Perry has really been what has taken this good design, good location, and pushed it over the edge.
Did you do a lot of research to get to this stage?
Research on the design side, it was really, we really tried to do something that was unique to the specific area we are in Key West. So we're in Stock Island, which is the old industrial area of Key West. This is where the commercial fishermen and processing plants are, and still are today, and really where they were. And so we really tried to figure out a way to incorporate some of this industrial nature, but do it in a resort setting and still make it warm and comfortable for the guests.
Okay, seems to be successful. Yeah. So Sophie, co-living and common is a relatively new thing on the horizon. And how do you choose your guests? Is there a formula for how these people cohabitate together?
Yeah, co-living in its sort of niched market with a title is very new, but the concept of living with others is extremely old, and people have been doing it forever. What the co-living industry, and specifically Common as a market leader in that, is doing is bringing a service to that. By being very clear about what our brand is and who we stand for and what you'll get by living with us, it's a self-selection piece. And a lot of what comes into the core of our decisions and our company and our brand promise is just authenticity. So we're very clear about what co-living is, and then everybody who is applying to live at a common knows what they're getting, and there are people that want to live with other people. So it's this very strong self-selection, and it's on us to educate on there. But the result is people that are really interested in that community aspect, and they're going to engage. We have an app, and people socialise, and they're active in that because that's why they're there. So the algorithm is just explaining what it is properly, and then enjoying the fact that people have chosen to be with you, and they're really living well in your homes.
So what is the smallest and largest project you've got in the works right now? Yeah,
big range. So we opened just 3 years ago, so we're new. Newish company compared to most of the players in this room. We're venture capital backed. Our smallest home has 11 beds, and we're in conversations with several properties over 500 today. So we've done an iterative approach. We have 21 homes across the country in 5 cities, and they've just gotten bigger as we've gone along, which has been great.
So do all the units have their own bedroom and bathroom, or they share bathrooms?
Yeah, it varies market to market. In New York, people are comfortable sharing bathrooms and would prefer the lower price point. In our markets like Chicago, we have more private bathrooms, so we just have different price point offerings. Everyone has their own bedroom though, there's no bunk beds. Just to be clear, it's not a dorm.
Well, Kat, we're talking about the brand and these 2 new brands that are coming up. American Idea Hotels is also a brand new brand. As you're developing these brands, what are some of the challenges and issues that you've encountered?
Well, as an add-on to the last question, right, it takes many, many years to bring these products up and out of the ground, and a great idea that you had when you started designing the Scion in Cleveland, Mississippi 2 years ago has now been done by everybody else and has actually come to market, and we're still in construction. So I think that that is probably something that, like I said, when we look to trends that we think are here to stay, so sharing economy or social networking and elements like that in terms of programming, that's what we try to make sure that we're incorporating into these brands and into the design of the individual products. But there's always speed to market. I think speed to market is our biggest challenge.
Mm-hmm. I think with everybody. When will these new brands then be formally built?
So right now, we're looking at summer, fall of 2019 for the first Scion to be open. There is always the opportunity for a more rapid conversion. We've got a number of projects in the pipeline that we're just not at liberty because of a number of things to talk about until they are at a certain stage in development, unlike other hotel companies. And then the American Idea hotels that are in process should be opening in late Q1 of 2019.
Greenville, I think there's 3.
Also in Mississippi. They're actually all 4 of the projects are with the same developer.
Okay, fantastic. So Himank, as a designer and architect, you're exposed to many new products and ideas. How do you control or execute these ideas in a manner that keeps the concepts ahead of the market?
So as I mentioned earlier, it's extremely important to focus on ideas which will remain relevant in the future. Yeah. So we are specifically very careful of launching ideas related to technology, because a project starting from inception to construction takes about 4 to 5 years, and that's like decades in technological terms. So we don't take those technology decisions until the very last, when all the drawings and everything is done, and even the construction is up until a certain stage. So that's the technology part. But the other fundamentals related to the design and the development, our approach has always been a little more conservative than doing something at compromising guest experience, for example, or convenience. So you see a lot of hotel chains. There was a time when everybody started incorporating iPads in the rooms, and suddenly now everybody is getting rid of them. Yeah, so that's just one example. There are plenty now. You have these voice-activated gadgets in the room. Yeah, which to me don't think they work like 100% perfectly. So we always focus on incorporating designs, ideas, or technologies which are time-tested and then implementable, right? So for example, one of the things we've been working on is the omission of reception desks in our hotels. So instead of just doing it across the board, we are testing it now in one of our properties in Dubai. And once that we have all the learnings and everything in place logistically and technologically, only then we'll be rolling that out in our future properties.
Okay, thank you very much. So Brad, you're working on a new project right now as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's very exciting. We have got involved with the World War II Museum in New Orleans, which is considered ranked one of the top 3 best museums in the United States. Having gone to New Orleans a lot and never had been there before, when I went for the first time, I was really amazed. So for anybody who hasn't seen it, it is an amazing museum. It's in excess of 400,000 square feet and sits in the warehouse district of New Orleans. So we were in an RFP process and were chosen as the technical service advisors to the museum and will be the operators. We just we're topping off this week on a 9-story, 230-room, about 20,000 square feet hotel called the Higgins Hotel and Conference Center. It'll be a Curio branded hotel, and it is owned by the World War II Museum. So it's really been an exciting project. We've been probably in the development process from when we hired consultants about 24 months now and look to open sometime late in August to September of 2019. But really a neat project with the tie-in to the World War II Museum and with the warehouse district close to the convention center there. It's really just going to be something special.
Sounds great. Yeah. Sophie, so you mentioned that you partner with developers that develop these homes. What's been the response from the development community?
Yeah, this response has been really strong. The typical partner for us is someone who's looking to diversify what they're wanting to invest in their real estate stack. It's also somebody who's, we do offer premier returns. We back in on density. We have an in-house design team, which I lead, and it is about swapping square footage for the experience of the member, so we can return a higher rate per square foot, just because we're leveraging density the whole way through. And then a typical owner that partners with us is somebody who's they're interested in the space. They get it, it resonates with them. There's an enormous social aspect and a bit of a first mover aspect as well. And they really understand that people wanting to live together, and sort of as true as it is ironic that you're very lonely in these busy cities. So, that we're really combating that as well.
So what's the average length of stay then at one of these homes?
Average length, most people are on 12-month leases, but we do offer 3 and 6 as well. Yeah.
3 years, did you say?
3 months.
3
and
months.
6 months.
Okay.
6 month, and 12 months as well, but most people select 12 months, and the average age is 29, so it's a bit higher than people would expect.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
For sure. So Kath, what do you think is being overlooked by the other brands that the guests would really like to see?
I think it's less of what's being overlooked and more of what's just being copied, so that we have this really just proliferation of the rooftop bar or the lobby that acts like a meeting space. It was really innovative and fun, and not to say that everybody doesn't absolutely love a rooftop bar. So I'm not anti-rooftop bars, everybody should have one. But it's that everybody's doing it, and I think that our industry in particular, and I think that we do it okay, we just love to take a good idea and just run with it. So
all the brands.
Yeah. I was just out at lodging, like probably many of you, and I don't know how many rooftop bars I heard about. Everybody's really excited about the rooftop bar.
It's true. It's true. So where do you get your inspiration then?
So we like to look outside of hospitality for our inspiration. So, or rather outside of hotels specifically. We look a lot to food and beverage. We love the restaurant business. We think that they're fantastically innovative, probably because they've got a smaller, generally footprint that they can look to. We love retail. I think that we learn a lot from what's happening in the retail spaces, both digitally and in the big box retail stores. So that's where we look.
Okay. Himank, is there a process for the Nextgen Design in the Middle East? Is there something that you're planning?
So there's no specific process as such, but Middle East is one of the fastest growing markets in the world, and Middle East and Africa, in fact, all put together. And Dubai and UAE in particular as a country has got one of the most hotels in the pipeline for the next few years. And the focus in the UAE generally has been towards the upscale and luxury hotels. And then there came a wave 5 years ago when everybody started doing mid-scale. But now the future, in the future years, it's going to be towards economy as well. So there has been a lot of focus on the upper end of the market instead of the lower end, and which is gradually changing, because as more and more people are visiting UAE, Dubai is now the 4th most visited city in the world. They the government has ambitious plans to make it the most visited city in the world by 2025. So in order to cater to the broader market, it is extremely important to now start catering to the mid-scale and economy segments as well. So in future, for sure, like what Rove did with mid-scale 5 years ago, you'll have more brands coming up, newer ones perhaps for the economy segments, which could be could bring a value proposition which didn't exist in that entire region.
Thank you. Brad, good questions here. You know, you're the developer. So we have the brand, the developer, and co-living. So what are some of the challenges that you ran into, let's say with the Perry? Was it permitting? Was it developing? What's the biggest challenges you encountered?
Well, before I answer that, I want to just make sure that I forgot to mention that the Higgins Hotel has an unbelievable rooftop bar.
Check it out.
Get it clear.
You know, especially in growth markets that are markets like Key West where it's difficult to grow, the permitting entitlement process is extremely difficult. From our position, we were fairly lucky here because we came into the project after our partner, who was the original acquirer of the land, had gone through 10 years of trying to get it entitled. So in that 10-year process, he went through 2 different plans, went through obviously the slowdown in our economy, and so you know when we got into this project, for us we were lucky because the entitlement process had gone through, but he had gone through. So you know, like I have found in a lot of markets like this, you know, the permitting and entitlement process is extremely difficult. You said earlier, I think, you know, as a developer, on an average, we say from the day you start negotiating on a piece of land or on a property, it's usually 4 years later before you're able to open something like that. You know, our partner will probably look at it as 12 years for him at this project. For us, from the day we got involved, it was 2 years from open till we got the property open. So we were fairly lucky or far enough along in the process.
That's very fast, actually. Yeah, just the 2 years. So Sophie, are all the homes the same design, or do you change it up?
Yeah, they are consistent where it matters. We have some pretty strong brand guidelines and standards as it comes to the unsexy details, such as the hot water heater size is specific when you have a number of people sharing that all need to get to work at the same time. We also offer, one of the things that we offer is that you can sign a lease with Common and you can transfer to any Common throughout the country, which many of our members have done. So they get a job opportunity in San Francisco, they won't need to break their lease, and they have a housing solution they can land in. So our bedrooms are the same. They're also a paired back design, which is an iteration that we figured out quite early on. So the bedrooms are the same and the living spaces are similar, and then we have amenity spaces, but similar. We try to avoid, we think a lot about, our business is about community and socialising, and so we think about a lot about our intimate spaces rather than grand, spacious, sort of almost intimidating places to hang out. We want those conversations, we want those comfortable shoes off moments. So we're driving spaces like that more so. Yeah, so and then they're all unique and definitely in response to the context, neighbourhood, the opportunity of the site, and running with a story, which someone mentioned earlier today, is just that storytelling as well, and authenticity in the home.
What are some of the amenity spaces then that you're?
I mean, our strongest amenity spaces are big, comfortable spaces with TVs for watching Game of Thrones or Westworld. Spaces where you can take your shoes off and have a real conversation. It's not overcomplicated. So our movie spaces do really well. Our backyard spaces, a lot of our homes are in New York City. Our backyard spaces are really popular because instead of peering over and wishing you had apartment one's backyard, everybody in the house has it, which is the shared economy, right? It's paying the same and getting access to more, or paying less. And then we have, gyms in our bigger properties. Yeah.
Well, I have another question though. So how do you handle some of these disputes that ultimately will come up?
Yeah, disputes.
Because you're going to have people that play loud music or drink or
Sure.
smoke or...
Sure. First and foremost, when we think about design, we think about eliminating the typical things that roommates fight about. So this is good design at work when if it's working, no one's seeing that it's happening. So the basics like making sure the trash is adequately sized, making sure the fridge is adequately sized, making sure that rooms are acoustically isolated. So the basics and the fundamentals that often don't happen in residential products, especially when you're roommating. So a lot of the very basic things that roommates will have conflicts over are eliminated. Same way that we have weekly cleaning, it's included in your rent, it's not an option. It just means the bathroom is always clean and you're not fighting about that. So the conflicts at that level aren't really happening. At the next stage, we are a branded business and we do have some mediation skills on staff, which we can engage in. Also pretty clear again up front about what the expectations are if you're going to live with people. We find anyone that is a source of huge conflict is typically not particularly happy, and in those cases where it's the most extreme, there's a pretty easy exit path as well.
There's a question, Michael.
Are all of the units fully furnished?
Yeah, they are.
Like linens and...
That's right, yeah. It's, again, we're playing off of people craving community and socialising and convenience. So one of the things about, and I wouldn't call it millennials, it's actually, I'd say everybody now has an expectation of service and convenience in their lifestyle. They hit it in all types of areas, Uber, Netflix, it's just easy, right? So for common, you could move in with your toothbrush and your bag and your bed with your mattress and your sheets on your bed are all there ready to go. So we call it move-in ready. And it's basically just eliminating those barriers that make it hard to take up something exciting in your life. If you have an opportunity to move to New York from, say, Australia, you might say, I have no idea where to live. Something quite common is somewhere where you could live and you could get going without having to sleep on the floor for a week or 3, as I did, waiting for the mattress to arrive.
What's your renewal rate and how many current users are out there now?
We have 650 members. Renewal rate is at 70%, and we enjoy vacancies, occupancy rates, and it's different because it's residential, but between 97 and 100%. We have 1,300 people apply to our product per week, and we only have 650 beds, so it's very strong demand. Yeah, it's a good product.
Just unfortunately, because we don't have all the microphones, so if you just ask your questions a little louder.
So my question is for really the whole panel. I have heard that there's some focus on innovation versus trend, but obviously there's certain trend that is going to be implemented on every project. Does anybody use trend forecasters, consultants that help to develop or forecast those trends, and then what's the balance there in terms of focusing on or predicting trend versus flex and innovation?
Anybody? Yeah.
We don't use consultants. We have, 9 Trump-branded properties that we really leverage to see the trend and how our consumers, or how consumers in general, are using the properties and what they're asking for. And as we continue to attract new guests, we see shifts in their behavior. But in our new projects, we have not used a trend consultant.
Those shifts, do you get those from feedback from the guests?
We do. We get them generally through guest surveys or through just conversations with our teams on property.
We don't use trend agencies or consultancies, but we're very data orientated in a similar way to the earlier presentation was about pulling information from our properties in a very current way, and we're tracking that quarterly, if not more frequently. And we also track things like NPS, which is unusual for a residential product. So we're keeping very close to the consumer in that way as well.
One thing I would add is that I sit on a board at the University of Denver's hospitality school, and I know at that level we make it a pretty big issue, trends, and we bring on our board we have people from Google and a bunch of the other companies out there as we're trying to, say, get ahead of it a little bit, but it seems like we're struggling still, when we're always seem to be a little bit behind.
And I've always been, very skeptical about trends because, most of them are passé even before, they're in. So it's extremely important to kind of focus on ideas that are here to stay rather than just kind of, just blindly following all of them.
Yeah.
For Sophie, what portion of the portfolio is new build versus retrofitting to an existing structure, and what does that retrofit look like in terms of your standard versus what's happening? What's better?
Percentage of the portfolio. Our earliest buildings and the bulk of our buildings that are open today were adaptive reuse just because of the speed to market factor. But all of the, I'd say of the future pipeline, 60% new build. And then second party question about what needs to change. We typically take, when we do adaptive reuse, it'll be like typically would be a multifamily, just changing the unit mix, but it would be vacant, 100% vacant, so it'd be going through a full renovation, and then the types of changes are, we take the floor plate, and the thing that is so prevalent and the thing that really changes the margins and returns is just that use of space and that density. So we do have architects on staff, and we refig the floor plans to optimise every square foot because it really matters, and that's so we can really see the product working well. So we will, at every opportunity, be redesigning the unit layouts.
And what's your top competitor right now, given it's such a...
Top competitor? Internationally, a company called The Collective is strong. They have the biggest co-living property in London, in Old Oak. We Live started doing this, but they've been less active in the space of late. Yeah.
And how do you compare to competitors?
How do we compare? We really prioritise design. It's not about trends, to your point. It's just about sort of the core of what's appealing for humans. And we do think that people, one thing that is new is that people are more exposed to good design these days, just because the internet, people are more exposed to everything these days. So we have a more discerning customer. So we do prioritise our finishes, our furniture choices, because people really care, and the bar is so low in the residential product, which is different potentially from the hospitality, but to come in there and to do a beautiful home that people can choose to rent in, and that's their life. People are delaying marriage, they're not buying houses or whatnot, so this is real life that's happening right now, and people want to live in lovely spaces, and so we put that at the forefront, making the spaces very lovely, and it doesn't mean expensive, it just means someone thoughtful is making the decisions at the start. Other than that, we focus a lot on authentic relationships, where we do a lot of community events, but they're very member driven as well. So it's not an artificial environment in that way.
Thanks. I think, Steve, you had a question?
Yeah, for Himank, you said you had a property and you took out the registration desk. How long has that been being tested?
Yeah, it's been tested. So the issue in Dubai is that there's a DTCM, which is Dubai Tourism Authority. They do not allow a property without a reception desk. So we had a lot of discussions with the top management of the authority to kind of allow us to test this in one of our properties, because we try to convince them that, look, the future is about getting rid of the reception. And reception desk is really a barrier between the guest and the staff, and a very formal one at that. So, and finally our team was successful, so it's currently being tested, and I don't currently have the final results, but for sure, going forward, all our properties, we are keeping the provision of omitting the reception as soon as we have the final go-ahead from our operations team in terms of feedback, as well as from the authority from a statutory point of view.
There's a question there.
Yeah, hi. I'd like your opinion about fashion hotels, like Armani, like opinion about how America can respond to this? Because I know for sure that few brands are thinking about going worldwide with it. I mean, I'm talking about not brands that are already existing like Armani or Bulgari but new brands. What is your opinion about how America can?
Kat, you want to take that?
I think we're a fashion brand. I think that America is an amazingly diverse place with lots of room and lots of demand for a variety of players. How scalable a particular, I think that the important thing with any brand that launches is that it continues to refresh so that it remains relevant or at least appealing to a consumer base.
I have a question for you guys. You know, a lot of focus is always put on designing for Instagrammable moments, right? We're talking about especially connecting with the millennial world. We talked about that. But we had a presentation last year just about that. A lot of hotels are really thinking about the social media elements, aspects of that. Is that something that, do you feel is a part of the conversation, like a common, or now with Scion?
So I know that the term authentic or genuine is really thrown about a lot, but I believe that they're important words because I find that the Instagrammable moment, while can be very kitschy. So when we think about creating experiences that are relevant, that are going to engage people, I think we'd rather have environments where people are so engaged that then they Instagram versus having a wall, perhaps, like you've seen in retail, which I think can be, fantastically effective and really wonderful from a marketing perspective. But I think that what we look at is not the physical element that becomes Instagrammable, but rather the programming that engages the people, and then they post.
Yeah, I agree with that. You have to be good. Like, you can't get away with it. You just have to be really good. And then people become advocates for you, and that is tremendously valuable. So.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that as well. I would, I'm not trying to be a salesman, but point to the Perry down the street, and we think we've done that in an authentic way, but then also in the day-to-day operation. So, people love it at restaurants and taking pictures of the food and kind of wowing people so that they get that inspiration that they want to share it, and that's really not just in design, but then in how you operate as well.
Like I said, I did have dinner very good night. The food was excellent. So we got to share some time.
Did you post it though? Did you post it?
No.
One question for Brad.
Yes.
So you're second generation, right?
Yes.
And with the industry, on the one hand, we're always hearing about how the market is saturated, so many keys, et cetera, based on location. And on the other hand, we hear how there's still so much room out there. I'm just curious in terms of your own growth pipeline. Do you focus more on volume and trying to acquire and build more, or are you pacing it? Just from a developer's standpoint, how are you approaching the market?
Very carefully on development, and so for us, we really are looking at marketplaces that we feel like need more product, and so we're very selective on where we are developing, or again, markets like this that are very tough markets, very tough barriers of entry, but are very strong markets. So I would say that we're probably somewhat conservative developers. On the acquisition front, though, we're very aggressive, I'm passionate and love the development side of it, and really love the creative part of that, but also have to be realistic. So really aggressive on the acquisition side.
Any other questions?
Well, we're actually right up on time.
Oh, okay.
That,
When you reception doesn't have a reception desk, how do you do the process? Have iPads with
Yeah, so that's the story. Now, it's easier said than done. Now, without it, and I'm not talking about incorporating like a kiosk or one of those, self check-in places. So one of the challenges is that it's really complicated to get rid of the reception desk, because then it means creating a whole lot of technological infrastructure around it, that as you arrive as a guest, there's a face recognition technology or something of the sorts kind of recognizes you and recognizes your room that was allocated to you, and then somebody sits down on iPad just for 5 minutes and does the entire process. So we actually got an external consultant to get this entire study done as to how actually can this be implemented. But it turned out that it was expensive than what we thought. So it's still in kind of progress, and we are kind of working on multiple ways to get rid of the reception desk. And it's not just us, meaning fast forward 5 years, 7 years, you won't find reception desk. It will be a passe. And lobbies, as I mentioned earlier in my talk, lobbies will be redundant in future. You just walk into the lounge or a bar or an F&B space without any reception. So let's see how that goes. It's kind of work in progress.
usually the worst experience with hotel is when you're leaving and you're checking out and it takes forever.
Yeah.
You've already done your vacation and you're hungover and you just want to go and it takes 10 minutes for I don't know why.
Right.
It's still debatable because they've been testing it for a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
iPad check-in, also self-check-in. And I think where we are right now is it's sort of phased where there's still a niche of people that want that human contact, especially at the luxury end. And so you really can't obliterate it completely, but then how do you stay progressive?
Yeah, but not behind the desk. You want the human contact, but not behind a formal-looking monster behind which there's a staff.
That is being evaluated, but not necessarily 100% eliminated. I think it's also.
Yeah, work in progress. And the other thing is that even if we have to have reception desks, it is important to locate them strategically so that you just don't, enter into the desk. So a lot of hotels that you go to, you walk in and the first thing that you see is the reception desk. So it is extremely important to kind of create that lobby as a space which kind of is buzzing and it's kind of activated, with the reception being slightly tucked away, where you don't see people queuing up and luggage around that area. So that's also important.
There's some hotels where you check in at the bar, right? That's the check-in desk too.
Yeah.
Moxie.
Yeah.
We're out of time. I'd like to thank the panel, and again, thank you, Doris, for introducing me.